We're back again with Dave and Mike Reviews. I'm Dave, and he is...
Mike!
Yay! Hey man, how's it going?
How are you doing, mate? I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me back on. It's been a while, isn't it?
It's been a little while since we did our amazing return with Bass Beneath a Steel Sky. Today, though, we've got an absolute classic from a Nintendo franchise. So, Mike, today we're talking about Super Mario Bros. 2 on NES.
Oh, man. Super Mario Bros. 2. One of the first games I played on the NES, and I actually played this before the first Mario
You played
game.
it before the first game? Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So with the first game, it confused you, because obviously the gameplay was a little different between 2 and 1.
Yes, it did confuse me a little bit, and I'm going to be controversial here. I prefer Mario Bros. 2 to the first game.
Oh, really? You like the element of picking up enemies or picking up things from the ground and throwing it at other enemies? Yeah, that sounds cool. Plus, with Mario 2 as well, you had the underworld, the overworld, the secret doors, the potion bottle you threw down. It was quite an interesting game to find secrets.
Yeah, Dave, tell us about Mario Brothers 2. There's gonna be a huge, I'm not gonna say surprise, but there's something about this game not everyone knows.
No, it's interesting. So, Super Mario Bros. 2, as you and I both know it here in Europe, and also the North American listeners, if there are any, or viewers, that's a completely different game in Japan. Their Super Mario Bros. 2 is very different. In fact, it's more like the first Super Mario Bros., just much, much more difficult with harder levels. Our Super Mario Bros. 2 and the American Super Mario Bros. 2 is based off of another game that's called Doki Doki Panic. Totally different game, and that's where the mechanic of jumping on enemies and throwing them at each other came from. It came from that particular game.
I only found that out, I think, 2 or 3 years ago when you told me in your Dave cave. When I was visiting the game room, is what I was supposed to say.
Yeah.
I remember you told me. I didn't know. I felt like an idiot as well. And then I actually looked up footage of Doki Doki Panic. Man, it's crazy.
It is, isn't it? It's basically Mario 2, but with a completely different set of characters, because it was the original game that our Mario 2 was based off of.
Yeah.
What was interesting was Matt said to me, "Oh, you mean Lost Levels, don't you, Dave, on Super Mario All-Stars?" And I went, yeah, you could say that. It basically is the Lost Levels, but that was the Japanese version of Mario 2. Now, it sounds as if you really liked our version of Mario 2, because a lot of people, well, they kind of didn't. They actually thought it was a bit bad of Nintendo to change the game and give us a different game altogether.
See, I've got no issue with it, but it's nostalgia, maybe clouding my judgment. I always remember my dad coming home from town with 2 games, a game for me and a game for my brother. In those days, we didn't get bought video games a lot. They were expensive, so it was £40 each, which is a lot of money back then in the 90s.
Yeah.
And it was Mario Brothers 2 for me, and it was Mega Man 2 for my brother.
Yeah.
And I both of those games I adored. I didn't leave my bedroom for weeks. I just loved those games. And Mario 2 has got a special place in my gaming career, if you like. I just love it. The gameplay, the music, the visuals were stunning.
Yeah.
The different strategies of playing as the different characters depending on the level.
Yep. That was definitely a thing, and I liked the fact you had 4 characters and they all had very different abilities.
That kind of always spoiled later Marios for me as well, because I played Mario 2 first. When I got onto Mario 3, which is a superior game, Mario 3 is the best Mario game in my opinion. But it's like me and my brother would do the 2-player thing and take turns. So when it went over to Luigi, who essentially is just a green version of Mario, I was like, he doesn't jump higher like he does in Mario 2. So it kind of spoiled future Mario releases for me.
You see, I also played the Mario games out of sequence, and it would have been one of my earliest NES experiences around my cousin's house. And Mike, I actually played Mario 3 before I played Mario 2, and I'd also played the first Mario game before that as well. And Mario
so what did you play first? Sorry, what did you play first? So Mario 1 first?
Mario 1 first.
Yeah.
And then I played Mario 3 because my cousin had Mario 3.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I also remember a friend of mine who lived down the road, his friend also had a NES and had Mario 3, and I adored it. I thought, this is amazing. And then I played Mario 2 at my cousin's house, probably a year or so afterwards. And I was like, really? This is totally and utterly different to the other 2 games. I was the other side of where you were. I was like, what is this?
You didn't like it, did you?
Initially, man, for years, I was like, nah, that's not Mario. That's awful. But there was a turning point for me. Mario 2 got various remakes, remasters I suppose you could say, on the SNES and on the Game Boy Advance. And it was actually the Game Boy Advance version of Super Mario 2 that made me fall in love with the game.
Oh, okay.
I loved it because the music was a little bit more... What's the word I'm looking for? A little bit more advanced, I suppose you could say.
I haven't played it on any other system. I've only ever played the original NES version.
I love the Game Boy Advance version. Also, another thing that I thought was quite funny and quite cool, some of the enemies could be twice, 3 times the size they were in the game, which I always thought was quite good.
Yeah.
So you could hop on a Shy Guy, and the Shy Guy would be massive, and some of the other Shy Guys were smaller. I loved it. That was on the Game Boy Advance version of the game. And
that's cool.
That was when I fell in love with Mario 2, and then I've since gone back, as you can see here, guys, and played the NES version. And I like the NES version, but the NES version is harder than the GBA version.
It was quite a tough game. There was like, if I remember correctly, it was Wart, wasn't it?
Wart.
The bad guy at the end.
That's right. You had to throw vegetables in his mouth. Spoiler.
Yeah. Also, guys, another spoiler. We've got to touch on this. Can you remember the ending?
I can. Mario, it was all a dream. As
it was all a dream.
The whole thing was all a dream. Now, that's good in a way. If I'd have seen that back in the day, I'd have thought, okay, so this is a sub-universe. This isn't the typical Mushroom Kingdom where the first game and the third game were.
Yeah, it's all a dream. It's like Mario's dodgy fantasy or something.
Dodgy fantasy. Yeah, I'd go with that.
But because it doesn't follow the Mario lore at all, but it explains everything by being a dream. I like that. I do like that. I loved the end, and I thought that was pretty cool. I also like the enemies, like you were saying, the Shy Guys. I loved that.
One thing that I was a little bit disappointed with, you may disagree, you may not have even heard it. So, on a prototype version of Mario 2, when it was being converted for us, the underground music for the underground levels was like a remixed version of the first game, and I absolutely friggin' loved it. It was... Right. I mean, I'll have to try and find it for you and maybe even play it on this episode. I loved it. Obviously, they changed it. They went more with what was in Doki Doki Panic and rearranged it a bit, which is still good, don't get me wrong, but I just love the drums and the sort of punch that the remixed Underground theme had that they were going to use originally.
So why didn't they use it?
Not sure. Maybe they wanted to sort of distance this from the first game a bit more. Different universe, different sound, different atmosphere, so to speak.
I've seen... I haven't played it, but I've seen footage of Doki Doki Panic since you told me about that game. And I'm pretty sure it's got different music, hasn't it, to Mario 2?
No, it's identical. There might be
Is it really?
Yes, there might be some areas, like, for instance, when you go in Subcon, you know, when you throw down the... what would be the flask or the potion. That room's different, because in Mario 2 it plays the sort of Super Mario theme, and in Doki Doki Panic it plays some sort of Arabian-style thing.
Yeah,
but on the whole, the level music, the overworld, the underworld music is identical to Mario 2.
Ah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It is really interesting. Can you remember the... it always used to freak me out a little bit as a kid. As soon as you go down that sort of pot... And you pick up a key, and that thing chases you.
The mask chases you. Yeah, the mask chases you across the screen. That used to scare me. What used to scare me more so was going to the bosses and the music, because the music changes. It suddenly becomes more dramatic.
Didn't it go something like... It did. Like that, like a fast piano.
It did, but on the Game Boy Advance version, it was even more dramatic, because the music changes twice. It changes as you start to approach the boss. It sort of goes...
Oh, wow.
And then as soon as you get to the boss will speak to you on the Game Boy Advance version.
No way.
So the bird will go, this is as far as you go. And then the music...
What, actual speech?
Yeah, actual speech. And then the music that you just mentioned kicks in.
That's amazing. I didn't know that. I'm gonna look up some footage of that later.
Have a look at the Game Boy Advance version. It's on Super Mario Advance, the first version of Super Mario Advance.
What was the... I can't remember the story, the storyline in Mario 2 on NES, because you could play as Princess, so Wart hasn't stolen her. What was the story?
Do you know what? I really don't know, because I know what the Doki Doki Panic storyline is, because it kind of shows you it as the game's loading up, because it was a disk system game, by the way, guys.
Okay.
And it shows you these kids reading a storybook and a giant hand pulling them into the storybook.
Right.
And then the 4 protagonists jump into the book, and that's how the game starts. As for how Mario and his cronies get there, I've got no idea.
That's interesting.
No idea.
That is interesting.
There is a backstory, but I always press start and start the game. I never read the text on the start title screen.
Because Mario 1 and Mario 3 and the like have all got obvious storylines. You know exactly what is going on. Even Mario RPG.
Yes.
You know exactly. I'm quickly going to Google this whilst we're doing this. Mario 2 storyline.
Yeah, have a look at that, because as you say, Mario 1, it's rescuing the princess, and every time you get to the castle stage at the end of a world and you defeat the boss, you get told that she's in a different castle. I think Mario 3, you go through the worlds, but you get a letter from the princess, I think, at the end of each stage, and she'll give you an item or she'll tell you something, from what I remember.
Okay. This is what I've found. This is the plot on Mario 2. It says, Mario has a dream of a staircase leading to a door to another world.
That's it.
A voice identifies the world as the dreamland of Subcon and asks for Mario's help in defeating the villainous frog named Wart, a tyrant who has cursed Subcon and its people. Mario suddenly awakes and decides to tell Luigi, Toad and Princess Peach, who all report experiencing the same dream.
Yeah, that also explains why at the very start of the game you've got a door that Mario falls out of and falls down to the ground.
Yeah,
that explains
that's right.
it. Yeah,
The very first screen that is, isn't it? With it's like a black background, I think.
That's the one. And in Mario Advance and also in Mario All Stars, I think the background's different. They changed the background.
Was that beginning as well? Because I can't remember footage here of Doki Doki Panic. Was it the same right at the beginning? You fell down the screen?
Yes, you did. The difference in Doki Doki Panic, gameplay-wise, you couldn't sprint. You couldn't hold down the B button to run faster. So the character could only move at one speed. Whereas in Super Mario Bros. 2, of course, you could run faster.
Because there was an energy system which was unusual for a Mario game.
It was hearts rather than just, mushrooms or power-ups. Yeah, definitely.
It was quite strange. But no, I've got fond memories of it, man. Fond memories of picking up those roots, throwing them at enemies, killing them that way. You could approach it in a few different ways, is why I liked Mario 2. And it was quite hard. It was quite a difficult game.
But what's funny, and it sort of kind of breaks the game up, do you ever remember picking up a root out of the ground and suddenly a rocket appears and you shoot up to the next part of the level? What on earth was that all about, Mike? Where did they dream that up from?
I don't know, man. I don't know. It was a cool game. It was a cool game. It was climbing up the vines. I remember one of the late levels, you could just climbing up vines for ages, sometimes using like a ladybug.
That's right.
To get you up there. It's just like the level design was really cool. Okay, it's another game. It's Doki Doki Panic. I just thought it worked well. I thought it looked really good as well. I thought visually it was nice. It was a nice looking game.
What I liked about Mario 2 was you had side-scrolling, but you also had vertical levels. Like you were saying about the vines and going up, where a level was predominantly vertical. That's how they'd split the levels up. I liked that a lot.
Same. The level design was really cool. What was the bonus, the bonus levels in between the main stages? Wasn't it fruit machines?
It was a slot machine, and if you matched up 3 of the same symbol, you got extra lives. So it was pretty cool. Now that's interesting. I'm glad you mentioned that, because the Doki Doki Panic bonus screen was very, very bare bones and basic. It was given a nice little visual upgrade by the time Mario 2 came along.
That is interesting. Yeah, it's a cool game. What year is Mario Bros. 2 on Nintendo, on NES?
1988, I believe it came out on NES.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I would have played it about 91, 92.
Yeah. Me too. Similar kind of time frame for when I first would have played that game.
Because I had the NES quite late in its life, really. The first ever game I bought on the NES was Spy vs. Spy. I think Mario 2 was the second sort of game I properly played.
Yeah.
And I absolutely, like I always say, absolutely loved it. It was my first experience. I'm trying to think. Yeah, it's the first platformer I played on the NES.
And that was a really, really good platformer. So, yeah, you had a good time there with Mario 2 and Mega Man 2, which we've covered before. Mega Man 2 was amazing. So,
love them both.
I'm going to do what you often do when we do videos, Mike.
Yeah.
If you were to score Super Mario Bros. 2 out of 10, what would you give it?
Easy, 9. 9 out of 10.
Easy, a 9, yeah. Now, if you'd spoken to Dave circa 10, 15 years ago, I probably would have said it was more like a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
But a Dave who's completed the game on Game Boy Advance, SNES, and also NES, I would give it a 9 as well. A solid 9. It's a very, very good game.
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you're going to ask me Mario 3, it's a 10 all day long. Mario 3 is one of my favourite games of all time, not just favourite Mario games.
Mario 3 is a 10, definitely for me as well.
But Mario 2 is a 9. It's a great game. I prefer... Pete, this is gonna annoy loads of people watching this. I always tell everyone this. Mario Brothers 2, I prefer it to Mario World on the SNES.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, see, Mario World... I like Mario World, I do, but it's a difficult game. It's challenging, I think, Mario World, for me.
A lot of people have Mario World in their favourite, if it's not Mario 3. Not for me, man. Mario 2... Mario 2 is probably my second or third favourite. I've got to stick Mario 64 up there, man, because I love that game, Mario 64. I absolutely love it.
That might be for a future video, because that's interesting to hear you say that you love that. That's an interesting discussion. So, guys, thank you so much for listening to me and Mike talk about Super Mario Bros. 2. Mike, thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure, man. Thank you for watching, guys.
And thank you all for watching.
Take care.